The city of Chester and its Countess of Chester Hospital would never expect to house one of modern Britain's most notorious criminals. Lucy Letby, a neonatal nurse on the surface, would later shock the nation. Now convicted for the murder of 7 babies and the attempted murder of 6 more, many of whom were just days or hours into their lives, Letby has been branded as modern British history's most prolific child serial killer. Born on January 4, 1990, Lucy Letby is a native of Hereford, a cathedral city, and the county town of Herefordshire, England. Letby was brought up in Hereford as the only child of John and Susan Letby. Her parents were described as well-liked and respected people who showered Lucy with love. Growing up, Lucy was seen as a somewhat quiet and reserved child who was always courteous. Having had a difficult birth herself, Lucy was always grateful for the nurses who helped save her and had an interest in becoming a nurse from a very young age. Letby later chose to pursue nursing at the University of Chester. Throughout her 3-year training, she gained hands-on experience, undertaking placements at both Liverpool Women's Hospital and the Countess of Chester Hospital. Marking a milestone in her family, Letby was the first to attend university and successfully graduated in September 2011. Letby officially began her career as a registered nurse at the Countess of Chester Hospital's neonatal unit in 2012. In a 2013 staff profile, she said that she was responsible for, quote, caring for a wide range of babies requiring various levels of support, and that she enjoyed, quote, seeing them progress and supporting their families. In addition to her role, Letby engaged in an effort to gather funds for an upgraded neonatal facility at the hospital. It was also observed by many that she openly talked about her personal life, often mentioning to the baby's parents that she was happily single. To those who knew her, Lucy Letby came across as an ordinary person. She had no criminal record, stayed out of trouble at work, and had no visible red flags regarding her actions as a nurse. Though their real names were used in court, all babies involved in the case against Letby were granted anonymity through a strict reporting restriction, with an order also extending to their parents to protect their identity. This restriction limited the media to only referring to the babies as Child A through Q. However, some details like the time of their passing or their status as a twin or triplet are allowed to be shared. Lucy Letby's first victim was Child A baby boy born 6 weeks prematurely, along with his twin sister, Child B, on June 7, 2015. Lucy Letby was assigned care of Child A during her night shift on June 8, 2015. Child A appeared to be relatively healthy at the time he was handed over to Letby, showing no signs of any problems throughout the day. However, just about 30 minutes into being in her care, he began to deteriorate rapidly. Lucy alerted a senior doctor, informing them that the baby was suddenly showing signs of distress. They noticed discoloration on the boy's skin, and the baby, who was previously breathing on his own, had now lost consciousness and gone into cardiac arrest. He was officially pronounced dead just 90 minutes after Letby came on duty. Later assessments confirmed that the baby's death was caused by the introduction of air into his bloodstream. Text messages sent by Lucy Letby in the hours after she murdered the babies were a key part of the evidence against her. The day after murdering Child A, Letby messaged her colleagues saying she doesn't want to go back into the nursery or see the parents. Yet on June 9, 2015, approximately 28 hours after Child A's death, Lucy would attempt to murder his twin sister, Child B. Child B needed brief resuscitation right after being born, but soon stabilized. However, just before midnight, medical staff observed that her blood oxygen levels had decreased, and that the nasal prongs supplying extra oxygen were misplaced. At approximately 12:30, alarms from the baby's monitor were triggered when the infant appeared blue, showed no signs of breathing, and was unresponsive. An on-call medical registrar was immediately notified, and the child swiftly recuperated after being resuscitated. It's suspected that Letby took off the prongs, and might have also administered oxygen via injection. An unidentified colleague of Letby later told Manchester Crown Court that when asked about Child B's appearance, Letby said, quote, "She looked very ill. She looked very like her brother did the night before. Pale, white, with this purple, blotchy discoloration. It was all over her body. I just remember thinking not again." Child B survived and was discharged a month later. Child C was a baby boy who was murdered by Letby on June 14, 2015, when Letby introduced air into his stomach via a nasal tube, causing him respiratory distress, which led to a cardiac arrest. Born prematurely at 30 weeks and weighing a mere 800 grams, he was in surprisingly good health after receiving intensive care. On the evening of June 14th, Letby was tasked with caring for another infant, who was in a more critical condition, in a different room. However, during a brief moment, when Child C's assigned nurse stepped out, he suddenly collapsed. Upon the nurse's return, only Letby was found in the room. The baby made a rapid recovery, but within 15 minutes he collapsed again with Letby once again nearby. He stopped breathing, and despite emergency interventions, did not survive. Letby allegedly interrupted the parents as they tried to comfort their dying baby in the moments before he passed away. The parents of Child C had been ushered into a room with the infant after medical staff at the Countess of Chester Hospital tried in vain to resuscitate him. Letby allegedly came in with a ventilated basket and told the couple, quote, "You've said your goodbyes. Do you want me to put him in here?" As soon as she awoke the next day, Letby immediately searched for the parents on Facebook. Evidence also showed that she continued to search for them multiple times over the months that followed. On June 22, 2015, a baby girl referred to as Child D lost her life when Letby deliberately injected air into her bloodstream. Unlike the other infants involved, she wasn't born prematurely. Her color drained, and she became unresponsive in her father's arms soon after a C-section was performed due to her mother's water breaking early. Child D was mistakenly admitted to the Countess of Chester Hospital's neonatal unit. Though initially showing positive signs following treatment for a supposed infection, she declined and collapsed 3 times in the early morning of June 22nd. During the second collapse, she was visibly upset and crying. Her monitor went off during the third collapse, and revival efforts were unsuccessful. Letby sent many messages to friends in the wake of Child D's death. One message sent read, "On a day-to-day basis, it's an incredible job with so many positives. But then sometimes I think, how do such sick babies get through and others just die so suddenly and unexpectedly? Guess it's how it's meant to be. I think there is an element of fate involved. There is a reason for everything." Lucy Letby also looked up Child D's parents on Facebook after her death, later stating to police that she could not explain why she searched for them. Child E was an identical twin boy born on July 31st, 2015. The babies were supposed to be born at Liverpool Women's Centre. Yet, due to the hospital being fully occupied on the day of their birth, their mother was transferred to the Countess of Chester. On the evening of August 3rd, 2015, the baby's mother visited him in the neonatal unit. When she arrived, she discovered Letby standing over her baby, who appeared distressed and was bleeding from his mouth. The mother recounted how Letby sought to put her at ease, informing her that a registrar would examine the child's health and advising her to depart from the unit, telling the mother, quote, "Trust me, I'm a nurse." Later that evening, Child E experienced a considerable loss of blood, with the attending registrar commenting he had never witnessed such a severe hemorrhage in an infant of that size. It seems that Letby had aggressively inserted a breathing tube into the infant's throat, leading to severe injury. She then introduced air into the boy's system. Despite numerous resuscitation efforts, Child E sadly passed away in the early hours of August 4th. In the wake of Child E's demise, Letby created fraudulent nursing annotations that were not only inaccurate, but also structured in an attempt to mask her involvement and cover her tracks. The very next day, Child F, who is the twin brother of Child E, was targeted by Letby. Letby used insulin for the first time to poison a baby. The baby was prescribed a total parenteral nutrition bag of fluids, after which unexpectedly showed a drop in his blood sugar levels and a rapid rise in heart rate. However, doctors were able to save him. Insulin level assessments were conducted on the boy, revealing conclusive evidence that someone had administered insulin to Child F with the intent to harm. No other baby on the neonatal unit was prescribed insulin, so Child F could not have received the drug intended for some other child by negligence. Again, Letby texted a colleague during the ordeal and went on to show a very unusual interest in Child E and F's family, with social media searches on them 2 days after the baby's death, and again on numerous occasions in the following months, including on Christmas Day A little over a month later, Letby would choose her next victim, Child G. Child G was a baby girl who Letby would attempt to murder on multiple occasions. The baby was born significantly prematurely, around 4 months ahead of schedule at another hospital, and weighed only 1 pound and 2 ounces at the time of birth. She was transferred to the Countess of Chester Hospital neonatal unit in mid-August, where she began doing very well in the coming weeks, making it to 100 days old, a milestone which was celebrated by nurses in the unit. However, the very next day, Letby administered an overly large quantity of milk to the baby via a nasogastric tube, and is also believed to have possibly introduced air. Even with her small size, the baby vomited, with the contents reaching an adjacent chair and the floor. She then suffered a collapse and stopped breathing. The baby was transferred back to her birth hospital and swiftly recovered, before being readmitted to the Countess of Chester on September 16th. On September 21st, Letby once again intentionally overfed the baby milk through a nasogastric tube, causing her once again to projectile vomit twice and stop breathing momentarily. The baby was then attached to a monitoring system that measures oxygen and heart rate levels. Later that day, the monitor was later found to be turned off, with Letby standing over the baby. Doctors saved the child once again, later stating at no point did they turn off the monitor, and that there is no way these were naturally occurring or random events. They were deliberate attempts to kill using slightly different methods by Letby. As a result, Child G survived, but was left severely disabled. 5 days later, Letby appeared to reference criticism or suspicion amongst her colleagues after receiving a supportive text from her manager, writing, "That's really nice to hear. As I gather, you are aware of some of the not-so-positive comments that have been made recently regarding my role, which I have found quite upsetting. Our job is a pleasure to do, and I just hope I do the best for the babies and their family." Letby was accused of attempting to murder Child H on 2 occasions at the Countess of Chester Hospital in September of 2015. It is claimed that Letby attacked Child H the morning of September 26th, then again the following morning after the baby's designated nurse had left the intensive care room. Child H's blood oxygen levels and heart rate dropped significantly as medics discovered her breathing tube was blocked. Several hours later, the baby suffered more desaturations while on a ventilator, but this time her breathing tube contained 0 secretions. Child I was a baby girl murdered on October 23, 2015, after Letby attempted to kill her 4 times. Letby introduced air into Child I's stomach via a nasogastric tube, an act that reportedly occurred just days after the alleged attempt to harm Child H. On a separate occasion, a colleague noted Letby was present in the doorway of a dim room within the neonatal department, mentioning how pale Child I appeared. The colleague turned on the light and saw Child I appeared to be at the point of death and was not breathing. The baby girl then collapsed but was successfully resuscitated and made a recovery. Within the hour, a monitor attached to the child rang its alarm, and one of Letby's colleagues arrived to see her near the baby's incubator. As the baby displayed signs of distress, the nurse aimed to step in, but Letby reassured they would be able to sort it out. Unfortunately, Child I soon took a downturn, and, despite revival attempts headed by a registrar, did not survive. A specialized pediatrician who examined Child I's case determined that the child's declining health matched the intentional administration of a significant volume of air into her stomach through a nasogastric tube. The doctor also speculated that during the last episode, the child had received an air injection into her bloodstream, causing her to cry out and then immediately collapse. Following these events, Letby sent a card expressing sympathy to the baby girl's grieving parents. Letby would target twins again on April 9, 2016, attempting to murder twin baby boys known as Child L and Child M. During a day shift, Letby is alleged to have administered an unauthorized amount of insulin to Child L. She is suspected of increasing the insulin dosage given to Child L, possibly in light of her prior unsuccessful attempt on Child F's life. At the same time, she turned her attentions to Child M by administering air into his circulation. Both babies would come close to death but were quickly stabilized and made a recovery once Letby was no longer on shift. Letby later stated that the insulin administration wasn't an accident but denied her involvement. She speculated that the insulin might have pre-existed in one of the bags delivered to the child. Child N was a baby boy, who Letby attempted to murder on June 3, 2016. He was born weighing just over 3.5 pounds. He was in what was described as an excellent health condition, aside from a mild case of hemophilia, a blood-related disorder. Letby mistakenly thought that the baby's hemophilia would offer a disguise for her deeds, assuming any signs of bleeding would be attributed to his condition. In the early hours, the newborn's blood oxygen levels plummeted to life-threatening levels. For a baby of his premature stature, his crying and screaming were notably out of the ordinary. The baby regained stability after receiving emergency care from the medical team. Independent medical experts believed that the infant's sudden health dip seemed in line with a purposeful infliction, such as a nasogastric tube being forced into his throat, or the result of receiving air via an injection. On June 23rd and 24th of 2016, Letby murdered her last two victims after returning from a holiday to Ibiza, Child O and Child P, baby brothers who made up two of a set of triplets. On June 23rd, Child O was in perfect health and was set to be discharged when he suffered an unexpected collapse. Subsequent post-mortem X-rays revealed an unusually high presence of gas within his system, leading authorities to suspect Letby had fatally introduced air into his nasogastric tube. The day following the demise of Child O, Letby shifted her attention to Child P. At around 6 p.m., while feeding him milk, the nurse introduced air into the baby's stomach through his nasogastric tube. Medical experts theorized that this surge of air severely damaged the baby's diaphragm. While doctors anticipate he will recover fully, as preparations were being made to transfer him to a different hospital, Letby commented, "He won't leave here alive, will he?" She had made a similar statement during Child C's fatal incident the previous year. Child P was pronounced dead just shortly after. Letby sent text messages to a doctor she had been texting asking for reassurance after one of the consultant pediatricians had been asking questions following yet another baby's collapse and resuscitation. A non-official investigation back in June 2015 exposed disturbing information concerning 4 mysterious deaths in the Countess of Chester Hospital neonatal unit. It noted that 3 of these incidents resulted in fatalities within the same month. Lucy Letby had been working during each of these incidents. While the unit's senior doctors promptly informed the Trust's committee tasked with handling grave events of these deaths, they were categorized as medication errors, rather than being identified as serious incidents involving unexpected deaths. This designation delayed the initiation of an immediate official investigation. In October 2015, an internal investigation by a ward manager also revealed that Letby was the sole staff member consistently on duty during the inexplicable collapses and fatalities. This information was passed to the lead neonatologist. That same month, the unit's consultants relayed additional worries to the management, but their concerns were largely overlooked or met with indifference. In February 2016, after a comprehensive thematic assessment of 5 mysterious deaths and collapses in the unit, the lead neonatologist and other senior doctors identified that Letby's presence was the only consistent element in these incidents. An urgent email containing these insights was sent to the Trust's medical director by the lead neonatologist, leading to a meeting in May 2016. Still, the executive board considered the findings merely coincidental and refrained from taking action. Reports found a neonatal death rate increased 10% higher than expected between June 2015 and 2016. On the 24th of June 2016, the lead neonatologist called the duty executive, demanding Letby's removal from the unit. By this time, 7 unexpected deaths had taken place within the unit. Letby was eventually given a role in the Risk and Patient Safety Office, maintaining her employment without granting her access to patients. The chief executive and medical director coordinated a review with the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health beginning in September 2016. The results of the review were presented in October 2016, and they couldn't pinpoint a specific reason for the heightened mortality rate in the unit. The report urged an in-depth examination of each individual death, even with comprehensive independent assessments and suggested forensic investigations. The final consensus was that the deaths in the neonatal unit arose from problems related to leadership and timely intervention. Letby lodged an official complaint in September 2016, challenging her transition from patient care to administrative roles. The board validated her claim in January 2017, noting that the consultants had orchestrated her move without concrete evidence. She was backed for her reinstatement to the neonatal unit and was provided with a position at Alderhay Children's Hospital in Liverpool. The chief executive instructed the consultants to forward a letter of apology to Letby, which they did in February 2017. In March of 2017, the consultants appealed to management for police involvement, believing a more thorough investigation was needed. They met with the Cheshire Constabulary on April 27th, given Letby's anticipated return to work on May 3rd. The Trust made their decision to involve the police known to the public in May 2017, emphasizing their goal to confirm that there were no unnatural reasons for the deaths. Law enforcement arrested Letby on July 3, 2018, after a year of investigations, on the grounds of 8 counts of murder and 6 counts of attempted murder.
Oh, Lucy, is it?
Yes.
Hello, my name's Cheshire, please. Locate Steph in 2 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Is anybody else? Tom, can you take the right? Yeah. Stu, you got a problem?
Yeah. I'm going to put you in the back seat over here.
Hold on, man, until
Yes.
I get the seat.
Okay, just take a seat in there for me, Lucy. I'll move that seat forward a bit. Shortly.
Yeah, I've just had knee surgery. So
Oh, right, okay.
They told me that there had been a lot more deaths and that I've been linked to somebody that was there for a lot of them.
Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about that. What concerns did you have?
I think we'd all just noticed as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
Following her detainment, her home in Chester underwent a police search. Handwritten notes were recovered by officers who searched the home, in which Letby appeared to confess to the murders. In the notes, Letby wrote things such as, quote, "I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough. I will never have children or marry or know what it's like to have a family. I am evil. I did this." She also wrote several diary entries using a secret code to record the dates of her crimes, such as dates marked June 23rd and 24, coinciding with her murders of Child O and his brother Child P. Letby was bailed out of jail on the 6th of July 2018 as the police continued an investigation. She was then arrested again on June 10th, 2019, released again, then arrested once more on November 10th, 2020, finally being denied bail and remaining in custody. She was charged 8 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder. Lucy Letby's trial began at Manchester Crown Court on October 10th, 2022, under Judge James Goss. She had pleaded not guilty to all her charges, which had been set at 7 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder. The prosecution stated that Letby was a constant malevolent presence in the hospital's neonatal unit. There were testifying witnesses that had walked in during or just after Letby's attacks. Investigators presented the text message and social media search history evidence. Letby's defense lawyer argued that Letby was a dedicated nurse in a system which has failed, and that the prosecution's case was driven by the assumption that someone was doing deliberate harm, combined with the coincidence on certain occasions of Miss Letby's presence, and that there had been a massive failure of care in a busy hospital neonatal unit, far too great to blame on one person. Letby's trial concluded after a total of 9 months. Verdicts began to be determined by the jury on August 8th, with the final verdicts being returned on August 18th and announced to the public. Letby was found guilty of murdering 7 babies and the attempted murder of 6 others. Prior to the verdicts being announced publicly, they were announced during multiple hearings in court, in which Letby attended the first before refusing to attend the others. Letby also refused to attend her sentencing hearing, so she did not hear any of the victim impact statements or her sentence. On August 21st, 2023, the court sentenced Letby to life behind bars with a whole life order, which is the harshest punishment available under English law. She stands as the 4th woman in the UK's history to be handed this sentence. In the aftermath of the verdict, authorities mentioned that they were investigating the possibility of Letby being involved in other infant harm cases. Ongoing investigations are focusing on unusual occurrences at the Countess of Chester Hospital that involve around 30 more babies. In total, the medical histories of 4,000 children are under review. While the jury addressed only 7 murder charges against Letby, 13 infant deaths took place in the neonatal unit during her last year there, and she was present for every single one. Since her departure from the Countess of Chester Hospital, only 1 death has been recorded in the unit over 7 years. Prior to this, the unit, even while handling severely ill babies, would typically register only 2 to 3 deaths per year. Letby's association with Liverpool Women's Hospital from 2012 to 2015 is under investigation, particularly all the neonatal admissions during her time there, as 2 infants died while she was being trained at the institution.